What's so interesting about the Black Mirror anthology is how everyone resonates with each episode differently. What one viewer values conceptually or emotionally says a lot more about them than they like to think.
You can psychologically profile somebody on what their favourite Black Mirror episode is, definitely.
But after Season 6 somewhat deviated from the dystopian tech recipe, especially at a time when AI is more pressing than ever, large swaths of viewers, including myself, were heavily disappointed and wanted the series to get back to its cynical sci-fi roots. As now more than ever, there are great movies coming out that feel like a strong episode of Black Mirror. When the show is at its best, it tends to introduce a new piece of technology that, on its own, is not necessarily nefarious, but in the hands of flawed human beings can be corrupted, misused, or even weaponized. There's always a trade-off. Whatever tech can give you with one hand, it will always take something away with the other, which speaks to the uncertainty we all feel as more and more technological possibilities are introduced into our daily lives, and we're forced to either adapt to it or fall behind. So after a slump with Season 6, how did Season 7 stack up? Is it more of the same or a return to form? Personally, I found this season to be a large improvement. Every episode played around with at least some interesting ideas. However, for me, as always, some just resonated more than others, for reasons I found to be largely about the execution. So let's go through the highs and lows and even rank the 7th season of Black Mirror. Coming in at number 6, Plaything. The concept for this episode isn't necessarily the problem, that a game developer creates sentient life in the format of a video game, which he believes can finally get mankind away from our usual Neanderthalic instincts of conflict, killing, and conquering. However, the flashback storytelling format removes any sense of stakes from one scene to the next. Just like Colin criticized, human drama requires conflict, and that's why the most interesting moments are when Lump begins tormenting the Throng for his own satisfaction, which forces Cameron to step in and kill him to protect his innocent creatures. But all of this backstory is really just leading to one moment, where Cameron reveals that he was intentionally arrested for shoplifting so that he can be the messenger for the Throng, who he believes are going to infiltrate the government servers to broadcast a signal to the world that will relieve us of our lust for conflict and conquering, essentially creating world peace. But the episode is left open to interpretation. Did the Throng just wipe out human civilization after their negative experience with Lump, or help to elevate us beyond our base instincts? I actually thought this ambiguous ending worked, as whatever you feel happens next says a lot about your optimism or pessimism towards technology and humanity itself. It also introduced a new fascinating anxiety. What if a frequency transmitted through our phones can be weaponized against us, to either re-scramble our brains or eliminate us entirely? How quickly everything could change. But the mechanics of the episode are mostly just exposition to build up to that final moment, and I found the tone of the story very dark and laborious, giving it very little rewatchability. So although it has some interesting ideas, I felt it was let down by its execution. Next up at number 5, and this may be controversial, but Hotel Reverie. This concept feels like it's right around the corner. Rather than going through the cost of reshooting and rebooting an old classic, what if movie studios just start superimposing modern stars into old movies instead? Using the new immersive AI software Redream, they can now put actress Brandy Friday into Hotel Reverie, where the rest of the original cast reenact the story like a play, and Brandy just has to react and deliver her lines in real time. But of course, something goes wrong, and she ends up stuck in there, where she then forms a connection with the now-dead actress Dorothy Chambers. And while the crew are trying to fix the problem from the outside, they have all the time in the world to just be together and develop their romance. After the production concludes, Brandy is given the gift of being able to speak to Dorothy through a telephone that's present in an old video clip of her, which is admittedly a beautiful idea, merging our relationship with the past and present. That if AI can recapture a person's essence, then it will allow us to interact with them forever. That while we may die, we leave something behind that can continue and engage in the modern world in a more impactful way than just photographs or interviews. But aside from being overly long, it's the convoluted nature of the storytelling that lets it down, like only having a few hours to get the full movie in one take, and even resorting to a cup of coffee clumsily falling on the computers to freeze time. And while Emma Corrin delivers a great performance that perfectly blends in with her surroundings, Issa Rae's performance throughout this supposed movie feels distractingly out of place. I mean, if this remake was ever released, it would be god-awful, as her facial reactions are far too comedic to blend in with the rest of the cast. So while I can foresee that soon we may be able to superimpose ourselves into our favourite movies, perhaps even casting other characters with our friends for a fun reenactment, the convoluted story beats just made it a bit too hard to suspend my disbelief, which then made the more emotional moments fall a bit flat. Next up is Bête Noire, which is actually executed very well, right up until the ending where it speeds off a cliff. In a world where the truth is ever harder to pin down, Bête Noire captures the unsettling feeling of being gaslit, where small facts that Maria knows are true keep shifting beneath her feet, causing her to lose touch with her sense of reality. But as it turns out, this is all the doing of her old nemesis, Verity Green, who created a pendant that can instantly switch to a new timeline so that anything she says is now reality. And after using this pendant to explore every avenue of pleasure, she recognizes that her old wounds still haunt her, so she decides to drive her school bullies mad to make herself feel better. Both actresses deliver stellar performances, and Netflix even chose to gaslight their own audience by having different users see the chicken shop being called Bernie's and Barney's before the swap takes place, which is a fun creative flourish. It's only at the very end, once Verity's ability is revealed, that everything goes off the rails fast, which isn't necessarily unrealistic, as Maria is just trying to save her own skin. But it is a jarring leap to go from victim to Empress of the Universe, and then just end as there's nowhere else to go. So while Bête Noire is still an enjoyable episode, it just leaves you feeling a bit off kilter due to the speed of the change. So we now enter the stronger half of the season, coming in third, USS Callister Into Infinity. I'm generally not big into sci-fi adventure stories, but the execution of this feature-length episode honestly felt like a cinematic experience. Script-wise, it's perfectly structured. The plot mechanics in both the game world and the real world move at a frantic pace before merging, all leading to the final reveal that a clone of Robert Daly still lives within the game, forcing the protagonist to face her fears and engage with her abuser once again. Given it's a sequel, there's nothing really new here that makes you reflect on your life or the dangers of technology, as that's all been handled in the original. But even for someone that's not a big fan of this genre, I was won over by the creative storytelling, like how the plot gets set in motion, because the characters are now at risk of being hunted down by the players they need to rob, who then report them back to the company for not having the appropriate player tags like everyone else. It all felt natural. Unlike most sequels, this somehow expanded on the original in a way that felt necessary, so I just sat back and enjoyed the ride, and although the ending of the crew now living in Nanette's brain was a little bit weird, I still left it feeling satisfied and entertained. With 2 episodes remaining, it all comes down to what you personally want from your Black Mirror experience: hope or depression. And I'm more cynical, so my second place pick was Eulogy. After his ex-girlfriend Carol passes away, Philip is asked to participate in her memorial by piecing together his memories of her through photographs that he doesn't just look at, but can now step into. Similar to Hotel Reverie, this allows us to engage with the past in a more proactive way, reliving the moments in our lives more intimately than we currently can. But Eulogy's concept has much more emotional impact, as the other world isn't fictitious, it's our own life story. But rather than making this process a haunting prospect that risks destroying our mental health, it instead shows us the upside of this possibility. As although Philip took years to get over his breakup, to the point he scratched and scribbled her face out of every image so that he wouldn't have to see her face again, by revisiting their relationship, he's now given the opportunity to understand what really happened, and in some ways, heal. Yes, it's bittersweet that he missed his opportunity to be with her, but now he can reframe their relationship through a more positive lens, and by the end, he doesn't look back with scorn, but appreciation. and it's only when he finally lets go of his inner turmoil that he can now remember her face and embrace those memories that he tried so hard to forget. It's a strong showing. Paul Giamatti definitely delivers, bringing the pain of Philip's old wounds right to the surface. If I had one small criticism, it's that sometimes the value of the memories they entered doesn't amount to much, and it needed another big moment in the middle to hook us back in. But that doesn't matter. Overall, Eulogy is a powerful sentimental piece that adds to the conversation that Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind started. And then finally, my highest rated episode of this season was Common People. It's definitely the bleakest episode, but also feels the most painfully realistic, merging together concerns about Neuralink, healthcare profiteering, and subscription services. Similar to Black Mirror's earliest seasons, it beautifully combines the "wouldn't it be great if" followed by the grim reality of "but sadly this is probably how it would end up" that Charlie Brooker does so well. After Amanda suffers from an inoperable brain tumour, her husband Mike signs her up with an experimental procedure from the healthcare startup Rivermind. This allows them to remove the tumour and replace it with synthetic receiver tissue that can then transmit cognitive function back to her brain from a cloud server. The surgery is free. All they have to do is sign up for a $300 a month subscription, and although she may sleep more and can't travel outside their cover range, she'll basically be back to normal. So Mike now has to work endless overtime to pay for his wife's healthcare, but it obviously seems worth it. However, although the surgery was free, Rivermind clearly prioritizes its profits over its users. Like any corporation, they're constantly expanding to make their products more appealing to consumers, now offering unlimited travel coverage for an extra $500 a month. But on top of dangling that benefit, they further incentivize users to upgrade by now inserting ads into Amanda's daily conversation, which she brilliantly calls commercial Tourette's.
Kids love honey. That's why parents love Honey Nugs.
So they don't just nudge you with the temptation of what's better, they now make your current experience worse. Obviously, viewers can relate to this frustration. They sign up for streaming services like Netflix itself, and then get told that their regular service is going to downgrade to showing ads unless they upgrade to a higher tier, giving the old tier undignified names like Economy, Basic, or Common, so that you feel like you're skimping out by not signing up. Brooker says he got this idea of ads intruding where they don't belong from an Alexa product he bought. He stated, "I've got an Amazon Alexa device in my house with a screen on it, and it was a useful sort of in-house intercom and digital photo frame, and it's just started showing adverts, and you can't switch them off. So I didn't realize I was buying a billboard for my house." But in Common People, the characters don't have much of a choice but to upgrade, as given Amanda works as a school teacher, if she can't stop inadvertently advertising to her students, she'll lose her job. So they sign up to Rivermind Plus, which they can only afford because Mike starts live streaming on Dumb Dummies, which is a harsh commentary on streamers or OnlyFans creators that have to degrade themselves in front of an audience for quick cash. So from both ends, whether it's Rivermind taking their money or Dumb Dummies giving them money, they're completely dehumanized, just middlemen transferring cash from one place to another while destroying themselves in the process, and only just to keep their heads above water. And then once Mike loses his construction job, they think that because they've been loyal customers, maybe Rivermind will reward them with some credit until they're back on their feet. But no. As once the corporation has you depending on it, all that's left to do is extract as much money as they can, prioritizing their highest paying customers and forcing everyone else to either catch up or suffer the consequences. Common People is definitely the bleakest episode of the season, but undeniably has the most to say about the desperate world we're not just approaching, but perhaps already exist in, where no matter how hard you push yourself forward, the finish line just gets further and further away. Depressing, yes, but a powerful piece of social commentary all the same. So that's how I saw Black Mirror's 7th season, which was overall a big improvement on its predecessor. But I've no doubt you probably viewed it differently. So what was your high and low point of the season, and why? And how do you think Season 7 stacked up in comparison to previous years? Was it a return to form, a mild improvement, or a complete misfire? Let me know in the comments section. Well, if you've made it this far, firstly, thank you for watching, but if you could now give the video a like, possibly even leave a comment and click on that subscribe button, it will encourage that mysterious algorithm to do its thing.